Hello, my name is Emily Bachman, and I'm one of the new board members with Uduk Hope, and I'm so excited to be joined today by Liasor and Christine, co-leaders of Uduk Hope. And I want to thank you all for joining us today, first of all. This is the first of several recordings that we're going to be doing over the next several months, just to share a bit more about Uduk Hope, their background, the Uduk people, and the work they're doing in South Sudan and Ethiopia and several refugee camps. So we're just going to get started today with Liasor. If you can tell me just a little bit about yourself, your background, how your family ended up here in the US, and a little bit about your studies and how that's played into the work that you're doing now.
Thank you, Emily. My siblings and I, the reason that my parents decided to come to America, we had been living as refugees in Ethiopia. I was born in a transition camp that's now called Sore Camp, where we serve refugees. And having lived in many different camps for about 10 years or so, my parents filled out applications to leave the country of Ethiopia to go to Australia. Well, those plans didn't work out, and they were presented with the option of coming to America through a faster application process. And when they agreed to do that, we ended up in Rochester, New York, in the middle of winter, the year 2000. And since then, I had been going to school here. I started in elementary school. I went to high school here at Thomas Jefferson High School, to St. John Fisher College, where I studied international relations. And then after that, I went to the University of Denver for my graduate degree in international security, which is similar to international studies, but with a focus on security challenges for countries, and also human security with people migrations and refugee issues and things like that. Yeah.
Thank you. And Christine, kind of the same question, tell us a little bit about your background, your studies, and how you all met and how that's kind of all worked into what you're up to now.
Sure. Thank you, Emily. So I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, in the United States, and that's my hometown. Both my parents are in Cleveland. They both are originally from Alabama, from the city of Gaston and Selma, but they spent most of their adult lives in Cleveland, Ohio as well. So I spent most of my life there until college, but I always dreamed of seeing other cities, other states, other countries, and so that allowed me to look outside of Cleveland, Ohio for school. So for undergraduate school, I went to Davidson College in North Carolina, where I studied Spanish literature. And that really opened the door to go to other countries. So while I was at Davidson, I studied abroad in Granada, Spain. And at the same time, Liasor studied abroad in Granada, Spain in the same program. So that's how we met. We were both juniors in college at the time, and we're in the same program abroad. And we met there and would later be married and would be with Uduk Hope as we are now. But after my time in undergraduate school, I returned to Spain to teach for a year in the city of Cordoba. And then from there, I went on to graduate school at Teachers College of Columbia University, where I studied international educational development. And my program focused on education in emergency contexts, with a particular focus in refugee contexts. And it was a great program for me to combine the intersection of education, language, and also my passion for refugee issues that was budding at the time. That program also allowed me to be able to do a final research project connected to Uduk Hope. So at the time when we were in graduate school, we were just getting started and leading Uduk Hope. And we were trying to figure out the best focus for the organization. So we were able to use my final graduate project as a way to go to South Sudan to do a refugee camp and do some research there. So I know we'll talk about that more in another interview. But since that time, professionally, I've worked in international education, particularly in study abroad, helping students study in other countries I had the opportunity to do. And also now I'm working as an immigration advisor, helping international students study here in the United States.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. So if you can help our readers or the viewers now get a little better sense of, what caused so many people to flee their homelands, a little bit of a history of what's been happening in Sudan, now South Sudan, and a little more background on that story.
So they say that the world is now in the most peaceful era in human history, and I don't believe that at all. Since the 1950s, countries around the world have been having domestic and internal conflict, and because of that, we now have millions of refugees in surrounding countries of where that conflict takes place. Now, the same thing happened in Sudan, and now there are countless Sudanese refugees in Ethiopia and Uganda and Kenya, where again my family ended up. Since that civil war, the country of Sudan had been split in half, and a few of the people, the Uduk people, or the Wanimpa that are from Sudan, have made it to other countries like Australia, Canada, and the United States, and my family is here in America.
So just on that point, talking about where the Uduk people are now. So when the nation of Sudan split into two nations of Sudan and South Sudan in 2011, the Uduk people, that's the name that was given to the people group that Liasor is from. But in their language, they are called the Kwanimpa. So the Kwanimpa or the Uduk people, it's used interchangeably. They were in a place that was not included in South Sudan when the nation split. They were still in the north. And so they were stuck in a situation where they were no longer a part of either group. And so that's the reason why the Kwanimpa or the Uduk people are currently refugees now, even in South Sudan, and also in Ethiopia and elsewhere. So that's just a little bit of a backdrop on why the people are currently still refugees today, even though South Sudan became its own nation.
Okay. So now if you can just tell us a little bit about the founding of Uduk Hope, where did it come from, who started that, and kind of how did that come to be?
So in 2013, I began school at the University of Denver in Colorado. When I finished school here at St. John Fisher College, I decided to go in person so that I wouldn't have to do online schooling. While I was there, my parents, Rumthus Daniel and Sally Daniel, both living here in Rochester, New York right now, decided to go through the process of starting a 501c3. Their hope was that families of Uduk people that live in America could find better ways of giving back financially, so that whatever they do together would last. They saw that of all the families living here in America, each month a family member would send money and it would be gone within a couple of days. And so because the needs in each of the camps are so big, they thought maybe if we put our hands and resources and energies together, we could create programs that would support not just our own families, but everyone in the camps as a whole. So that's where their idea of the organization came from. When I finished school in 2015, I came back to Uduk Hope having already been established as a legal entity. And they gave me the organization to develop into something of my thinking. And that's where Christine came in to help with that process.
That's great. Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing a little bit about the background of the organization and how it came to be. We really hope that people will continue to join us as we dive a little bit more next time into the research that's happened there and the work that's going on now. So we hope you all will join us again, and thank you so much for being part of this today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emily.